Majora's Mask, released in North America October 26, 2000, and then a remake on February 13th, 2015. A game that almost didn't exist. A game like no other. A game that is special to me in several ways. Something that I have wanted to talk about for a long time but never could because of the daunting task that I knew that it would be. But here, in 2021, I feel like I finally have enough skills to be able to take on and at least try to pull this off to at least some reasonable degree. I am so happy to finally talk about this. This game that's my favorite game of all time. My name is Vincent here at Just Gaming, and this is the history, my experience, and legacy of the game simply known as The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Now this took me so much work and technical issues which are always just so fun, so please, if you end up liking this video, please like, comment, and subscribe as it will help both me and the channel grow. But with that out of the way, let's begin. The Legend of Zelda happens to be my personal favorite video game series of all time, beating out series like Donkey Kong, Final Fantasy, Fire Emblem, Mario, Metal Gear Solid, Uncharted, among others. I have some of my earliest gaming memories with the series, possibly even my very first memory ever with a video game being A Link to the Past or Ocarina of Time. But what about Majora's Mask specifically? Well, I was still pretty dang young at the time, and I only had a basic understanding of what video games actually were. I was but a wee little 6-year-old by the time that it came out, and it wasn't even a gift for me or anything. It was actually from my older brother who got it for his birthday, I think? I don't know why, but I remember it being in like a huge room, like somewhere at Disney World when he first got it. I asked my mom to let me see it, and she handed it to me, and I just kind of stared at it in awe at the 3D holo screen it had, since it was the collector's edition of the game. But hey, it's entirely possible that was all a dream, which I doubt, but I guess it's possible. But yeah, I even remember the very first day I set my eyes on this bad boy, which who would have known that I was going to end up having such a huge impact on my life. In terms of playing it, well, I never actually got too far. I got up to the part of the Digger Patrol area where you have to fly around and get from flower to flower, and I just kept on missing them. So I remember asking my brother to help, and I don't know whether he was just maybe too lazy to help me, but he said he always got stuck there too and couldn't do it either. He said he and his friend had to do it together to get past this, so I ended up just giving up for a little while till I was a little bit older, I guess. But eventually, either as a late kid or very early teen, I picked this game back up again, and I was able to beat the area. Ha! Take that, you stupid dick. Oh crud, I still fall all the time. Oh, I still suck at this part. Some things never change, I suppose. In 1995, Nintendo put out one of its biggest magnum opuses ever as a company and for the Legend of Zelda series as a whole. A little game called Ocarina of Time. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Small indie game, sold millions of units, been called one of the greatest games, if not the greatest game of all time. Literally changed the landscape of how games were made for generations, and of course had a healthy dose of sexism in one of its commercials. Good times, good times. So how does one follow up on such a massive success? Well, dang, I guess you just gotta go bigger and better, right? More temples, characters, bigger landscapes, and even more extravagant music and visuals, right? Well, no, actually. The music was still amazing, of course, and it even looked a smidge better than Ocarina of Time, partially helped by the RAM expander that came with and was required by the game to play. But other than that, everything went kind of backwards. Let me explain. Basically, after Ocarina of Time, Shigeru Miyamoto wanted to create sort of a Ocarina of Time remix of sorts. It would be the same game, but the dungeons would be all new because they were to get scrambled around and created differently. This was going to be named Aura Zelda, later named by the media as Zelda Gaiden, and then translated into English being Zelda Side Story. This was going to be released on the 64DD, aka the 64 disk drive. But current series producer Eiji Aonuma was pretty hesitant to do this because he felt that the game's dungeons were already perfect as is and couldn't be made any better. So Miyamoto gave Aonuma the ultimate challenge, being to create a full-on sequel in just 1 year. To say Aonuma was feeling a bit pressured is an understatement, but he took it all in strides. And by strides, I mean he got recurring nightmares about the game's development, including one dream in particular that ended up being a special sequence in the beginning of the game that you can see here. Now making any game, no matter how big or small, within just 1 year, with a smaller team at that than the original, is kind of insane, but thankfully they had a great team and were able to use lots of workarounds for the workload. They used many of the same character models, assets, some music, and gameplay elements from Ocarina and implemented them into Majora's Mask. Without the ability to do that, this game would have probably never existed. This game was originally going to have 7 days for you to go around and do stuff in, but they eventually cut that down to a mere 3 days after development time. They got the 3-day system from a movie called Run Lola Run, which, on a side note, by chance I actually have seen, and I would recommend it if you have a little extra time. And hey, with current world events, I think we all have a bit of extra time on our hands. Now, as mentioned before, this game was one of the 3 games in the Nintendo 64 catalog that actually required the expansion pack, with the other 2 being Perfect Dark and Donkey Kong 64. This was to give it that extra bit of kick to the graphics, such as more dynamic lighting, motion blur, real-time lighting on the outside of buildings and on the inside of buildings, which was kind of a big deal back then. Let's go ahead and move on to the story. Now, this game is actually a direct sequel to Ocarina, and the Zelda series having direct sequels of any kind is actually relatively uncommon, so that's already one unique thing that this game has going for it. Beginning text tells us how after defeating Ganon, Link goes on a journey to search for his lost friend. Now, it is never stated who exactly this friend is, but it is heavily implied that it is Navi, your fairy from the first game. You know, this guy. Yeah, everyone's favorite. Anyways, while in the forest on your horse Epona, you're attacked by a little imp creature named Skull Kid wearing some kind of creepy mask. He rummages around your person and finds your ocarina before Link wakes up. Link tries to get it back, but Skull Kid hops onto your horse and Link grabs on for dear life. You eventually find yourself in another area where you have to jump
epic, more epic, unnecessarily epic, what I do best,
into a cave where you'll fall and find Skull Kid. He taunts you before turning you into a Deku Scrub and then flies off, leaving one of his fairies behind. This fairy ends up becoming both your friend and helpful partner throughout your game. You find yourself inside a clock tower where this weird man is behind you, and he tells you how to change you back into your regular form if you help him get the mask back that Skull Kid was wearing. You go around the first day familiarizing yourself in Clock Town until the final day where you have to go and face him. You can't hurt him at all, but one thing you can do is get your ocarina back and oh hey, it's Zelda! Hi Zelda! Oh, and she's gone. And that's basically where the sequelness of the game ends. You perform the Song of Time and go back to the first day. The mask salesman teaches you the Song of Healing, and when he asks for his mask back, well, oh god, get off me, get off me. He explains that this is a very dangerous mask and was created by an ancient tribe to perform hexes and was sealed away. Somehow he got it for himself and became his most prized possession. Now why he wanted that mask so badly in the first place is a big mystery that's never fully explained and left up to players to theorize about. We then head out to defeat the bosses of Termina and get the mask back. And really, that's it for the main story. Like I said at the start, even though this is a sequel, it scales most things back, including the size of the story, but in a sense, it makes it have more weight to it, which we'll get to that soon. As mentioned before, the game works on a 3-day time cycle. Basically, you get 3 days per loop to do whatever your little Link heart desires. Whether it be go after that temple you just got to, or help some people with these creepy alien dudes that were based on real aliens in real life, which honestly just makes things even spookier to me. Help people deliver some milk, etc. Now you can actually alter the flow of time with either a Song of Double Time or Inverted Time. By doing the inverted song, you can actually slow down time, so instead of the 3-day cycle ending in only about 1 hour, it'll actually go up to about 3 hours, which is way needed for temples, especially if you're a beginner for this game. But let's say you want to meet someone around 10 AM, but it's only like 7 AM. Instead of sitting around doing a whole lot of nothing, you can actually use the Song of Double Time to go closer to that time. Now this is where one of the differences between the N64 version and 3DS versions are. In the original version, you only have half days, which means you still have to do a lot of waiting around. But in the remake, and one of its improvements it has, you can change this by the hour. This saves so much time both in-game and in real life, and it's probably one of the best changes they made from the original to the remake. And yes, I call this a remake. Same with Ocarina of Time. I know not everyone calls this a remake, some say master, but I call it a remake. Anyways, let's talk about some of the other changes they made in the versions, and sadly, I don't like most of them. Right off the bat, however, I will go ahead and defend the save system. Basically, in original, you only had two ways of saving. One was going back in time, and the other was with an owl statue that acted as a temporary save. The new one has these little feather statues that are permasaves, and the owl statues also now work as permasaves too. I know that absolute purists don't like this that much, but personally, I do. But aside from that, well, that's where I begin disliking most of the changes, unfortunately. And to save you a ton of time of me complaining in great detail, go ahead and check out this video that I'll have linked below. After you're done watching this video first, of course. He goes into great detail as to why these new changes just weren't needed or could have been implemented differently. The new changes to deco hopping were pretty bad to me, and the Zora swimming being changed so heavily was probably one of the worst updates that has ever been implemented in a Zelda remake or remaster ever. The new graphics are super nice and really pretty, even blown up on a PC screen like this. They still look seriously great. But the brighter scenery does end up losing a little bit of what made the original so thematic. Personally, it doesn't bother me too much, but it can be a deal breaker for certain people. Now, I admit, this was emulated. I didn't have any other choice. Even if I played the original version, which I do have obviously, I would still have to emulate just because simply I don't have a way to record native 3DS footage or native classic console footage. And since this was emulated, I took the opportunity to add mods. Please don't hurt me, Nintendo. Please don't send your ninjas after me. I love you. But yes, I added mods so that way it could bring back the classic Deco spins, Zora swimming, and a few other quality of life features like the mass transformations being on the D-pad, freeing up some of the item buttons. This honestly made the 3DS version way better from what the base version is like, and it makes it the definitive version to play. I just wish I didn't have to both A, emulate, and B, add mods to make it this way. Without the mods, I actually say the original is still the preferable way to play, which saddens me, but it's just how I feel. But back to the gameplay, there are only 4 temples in this game, but they are honestly some of the best in the entire series. Yes, that includes the game's water temple. Yes, it's difficult, but it's not bad. Difficult does not equal bad. After beating an individual temple, if you've collected all the fairies, you can actually go to the Great Fairy and she'll give you special upgrades and even items, including the Great Fairy's sword, which is the strongest sword in the whole game. It's basically the equivalent of the Big Goron sword from OOT. But the biggest selling point of this game, which is in the title, the masks. There are several to collect from and all have different features in this game, including 3 main transformation masks, one, I guess technically secret transformation masks, and then the rest are not transformation masks, but again, all do serve a purpose. For the main ones, the Deco mask lets you spin around and spit bubbles, Zora lets you do some incredibly smooth swimming in water, and the Goron mask lets you be super speedy along fields, and is also the heaviest out of the 3. And the best and most coolest mask in the game is the Fierce Deity mask. It lets you obliterate bosses, including the final boss. It makes it a complete joke. You can only get the last one, however, by collecting every other mask in the game, but it is so worth it to destroy Majora in the final fight. The other smaller masks allow you to do several other things like get bottles, talk to doggos, dance with girls, talk to scalies, and way more. They all serve a purpose in some way and still feel all valuable to collect. The other normal items in the game are your standard Zelda fare like the hookshot that lets you zoom across rooms after locking on to certain things, the bow is a classic item that every Zelda fan knows about, and the bombs are here of course because you can't have a Zelda game without them. But how did Link suddenly lose all of his items between Ocarina of Time and this game? I don't know, maybe he's a giant klutz. Every character has a cycle they go through every day in the loop, so you'll always be able to find someone in a certain area at a certain time. You also get this thing called the Bomber's Notebook that helps you keep track of things like who everyone is and where they might be at a certain time. This was in the original game too of course, but the remake actually expanded upon it a little bit, including telling you when they've finished a side quest and lets you put reminders on spots so you don't forget about certain times. Finally, another addition to the remake is that they have these Sheikah Hint Stone thingamajigs. This is pretty helpful because it tells you how to get past certain spots and gives you a hint for heart pieces, so it's great for newbies. Now you might think it's odd to have a section all to itself just about the side quests, but honestly, that's the bulk of this game. If I wanted to split it up into percentages, it would probably end up being like 70% side quests and 30% main game, something around that, which is pretty unusual for a Zelda game. In most games, what you do helps lead to the main story, but in this game, the side quests are mostly only helping certain individuals in Termina. But that's what makes the side quests here so special. You aren't just doing things because it's to defeat evil or to beat somebody, you're helping these individual people with their problems. You get to know them as the 3 days go by, you get to know how they're handling the situation they're in. Some people believe the moon is truly going to crash, while some others just in complete denial. By the end, you even have some people cowering in fear because they don't want to die, and just some of the stuff in this game is downright depressing, and it's not exactly original take to think that. Anyone who has played this game before has said that while there are moments of joy, before you get to them, it's just sadness to nearly everybody. But that just gives you more motivation to keep going and helping all these people in their lives to help bring them even just a little bit of happiness before their lives just are destroyed. Helping this guy on the farm see his little chickens become adults, helping this man remember why he got in this show business, giving these little frog dudes a little just fun final performance. One of the hardest hitting ones is helping this little girl get her dad back after he was cursed. I guess that isn't technically a side quest because you do need the mask from it, but I just have to mention it here. The feeling of overwhelming happiness you get after seeing her reunited with her dad is something that I've only felt in some movies. And since I can't think of another place to put these, getting the 3 mask transformations are also all hard hitting as well. The Deku mask makes you remember about this dead Deku scrub that you see near the start of the game. Darmani's mask has his sorrow of falling while trying to defend his people. And Mikau dying right in front of you, I might add, while trying to get Lulu's eggs back from the pirates who stole them. Like, for real, you have him die right in front of you, and I had to go back and double check the rating of the game because geez, rated E for everyone? Yeah, okay guys, whatever you say. But you have to take up their masks and fulfill their duties for them so that way their souls can have peace brought onto them. Just 3 more quick things I want to add on to here before moving on. One thing is that, do you remember that Deku scrub that I just mentioned earlier, the dead one? Well, it's never been fully confirmed by the devs, but it's highly implied that this is the Deku Butler's son, as he's seen mourning at the dead Deku during the end credits, which just shows that no matter how much we do, no matter how much we try and help, not everyone can be saved. And that just makes me sad, man. Secondly, I'm not one to ever 100% complete games. Even games that I love dearly, I never really just do that kind of thing. Getting a little platinum trophy or a little blurb on the screen saying you did a good, you know, like it's nice, but like, I know people who do this stuff in nearly every game, and I even have friends that go out of their way for plats and 100% their stuff, but it just really isn't for me. Except this game. This is the one game that I truly feel like if you don't 100% the game, then you haven't really played the game the way it was meant to be played. And that comes from the pure satisfaction of helping all these people bring joy into their lives. And of course, you're always constantly being rewarded by helping with heart pieces, rupees, and the best of all, masks. If you do ever play this game, I implore you to go for 100%. It isn't even a long game either. It took me only about 23 hours to 100% everything, so it's really, you don't have much to lose. Finally, and one of my biggest revelations in my entire life, this was the very first game that made me feel real emotion. And that is all thanks to the Anju and Calais, is that how you say it? Calais side quest. I really don't want to go into spoilers on this mission, but I remember that even my little kid brain, while not fully understanding all of the emotions myself, it made my soul flicker with something that I had never felt before. That is when I knew that this game was my favorite game of all time. Anything that has ever gotten close, like Metal Gear Solid 4 or 5, The Last of Us, Mario Galaxy 2, Celeste, nothing has ever beaten it. And replaying it now has just reinforced that this is still the one for me. This side quest is what made me realize that games weren't always just mindless time wasters, that they could truly be the highest level forms of art. And that is incredible to me. This section is going to be pretty short because honestly, I just don't have a ton to say without me going on more of a loop than I already tend to do. The music was primarily done by our old friend Koji Kondo with a combo of remixing old music from Ocarina and new stuff for this game. And man, most of this stuff is just bangers. The Song of Healing is like legitimately such a peaceful song, and Oath to Order is so powerful to me. Hearing it along with the scene that the four giants stop the moon is just so The scene in general is one of my favorites in all of gaming. The coloring of the sky really makes you feel a complete unease, like the world is truly about to end. But with the music and the giants at your side, you still feel like that it can be stopped. Honestly though, just give the official soundtrack a listen to sometime, you won't regret it. And the final hours theme with the bells chiming in the back, my lord, there is truly nothing like it, and it's this feeling that is hard to be matched with any form of media. This game is one of a kind and something truly special that has yet to be matched, and I'm not sure if it ever will be matched. The music, the characters, the story, the themes of death, sadness, growing up, all in one brief 25-some-hour game. Incredible. Now yes, I did grow up with this game, so I'm sure I have some bias, but it's my own video, so take that. Ha! Oh, I kid. Please, let me know what you thought about this video down in the comments. Like I said, this video took me forever to do, and it's one of my biggest workloads I've ever had to do on any video, and I'm honestly just not very good at these types of videos anyways, so feedback would be very welcomed. But yeah, if you did like this video, give it a like and subscribe. It would really help us grow. Now, I've actually started streaming a little bit on Twitch, Vincent_R, just like you see on screen, and Just Gaming in general is also going to be streaming pretty soon as well. I'm actually a bit of chatty Cathy, so I'd love to talk to you. Please, come hang out with me or come hang out with Just Gaming whenever they start up. Anyways, please go play this game. You will not be disappointed. It's my favorite game of all time. Please Nintendo release this on Switch along with Ocarina of Time, and I will love you forever. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.